Hello students, once again I welcome you all in this new video for class 9th. In the previous video we have completed the two main types of plant tissues, and that were meristematic and permanent tissues in plants. Today we are going to discuss one more type of tissue in plant which are known as protective tissues, but don't be get confused by this new type of tissue in plants that earlier I have told you only about two main types of tissues, that plants have only meristematic and permanent tissues. So what are now these protective tissues? Actually protective tissues are nothing. These are what the tissues which are present at the outermost layer of the plant, and they are actually the permanent tissues, but since they are present at the outermost layer of the plant and they are performing the function of protection from external environment, that's why they are known as protective tissues. So when we talk about the types of protective tissues, they are of two types. The first one is epidermis and the second one is cork. So if it is a dicot plant, so you know the outermost layer of the plant. Epi means what? Outermost, and derma means what? Skin or layer. So the outermost layer of the plant is known as what? Epidermis. And since it is the outermost layer, so it is going to protect the plants from external environment and from the invading microbes. But what will happen after the secondary growth? As you are aware that in dicot plants, they are going to represent the secondary growth, and in secondary growth this same plant is going to increase in the girth. So when this plant is going to increase in the girth, so the outermost layer epidermis is going to be ruptured and the new cells will take place, and these new cells are known as what? Cork. So cork is what? The tissues or cells present at the outermost layer after the secondary growth, and that's why these two tissues are known as what? Protective tissues. So we will start discussion of the secondary growth in the plant and what is this epidermis or cork present in the plant tissue. But before that, we must know all these terminology which are going to use during the discussion of secondary growth and how this cork is going to form in the plants. So like this cortex, pith, vascular cambium or secondary growth, cork cambium, cork or periderm or pericycle, these may be new words for you. So before we start discussing through the diagrams or figure how the secondary growth is going to happen, just have a look on these terms. So when these terms will be clear to you, you will be easily identifying and you will be easily understanding how the secondary growth is going to happen in the plants. So the first term is what? Epidermis. As I told you, epidermis is what? Outermost, and this outermost layer of the plant is having only single layer cells, and these cells are what? Elongated and compactly arranged, as these are the outermost layers. So without having any intercellular space, they are compactly arranged so that they can create a protective layer around the plant's body. These cells are having what? A specific feature that they are coated with a waxy coating, a covering that is known as cuticle. But this cuticle is absent in roots because this waxy coating, the function of this waxy coating is what? To protect the loss of water from the aerial parts of the plants. But as you know, the roots are there embedded in the soil and they are fixed there. So their function is to absorb water, and that's why the epidermis of roots is lacking cuticle so that they can absorb water from there. But when we talk about the stem and leaf, the layer of cuticle is present there and it is going to prevent the loss of water. Now the second word is what? endodermis. So as epi means outer, endo means inside or inner. So this is what inner layer of cells in the cortex. We will discuss about the cortex, what do we mean by cortex, and we will see the diagram and the figure also. So this is what inner layer of cells in the cortex surrounding vascular bundle. So you know vascular bundles are what? When the xylem and phloem are arranged together in a sequence, in a fashion. So the arrangement of xylem and phloem together is known as vascular bundle, and these endodermis is what present around the vascular bundle, and this type of layer of cells is known as endodermis. Now two types of tissues are there, ground tissue and vascular tissue. So you don't have any problem in the vascular tissue because during the permanent tissues we have already discussed that plants are having complex permanent tissue which are known as xylem and phloem, and their function is what? When we talk about the xylem, they transport water and minerals, and when we talk about the phloem, they transport food. So if the tissues in plants they are busy in the transportation of materials, such type of tissues is known as vascular tissue. When we talk about ground tissue, actually these are the tissues which are present other than vascular tissue and epidermis. So apart from the outermost layer and apart from the xylem and phloem, other tissues, so other tissues means the parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So these type of tissues are known as what? Ground tissues, and on the basis of their presence in the stem, they are categorized in two names. The first one is cortex and the other one is known as pith. So what is cortex? Actually, the parenchymatous cells located outside of endodermis and vascular bundle. So in the diagrams we will discuss here and we will see what do we mean by cortex. So if suppose this is outermost layer epidermis and this is the inner layer endodermis. So in between the endodermis and epidermis, the parenchymatous cells are known as, this region is known as what? Cortex. And when we talk about the pith is what? Center of the stem. So epidermis, endodermis, and here the vascular bundle will be present. So in between the vascular bundle, the center region of the plant that is made of parenchymatous cell, that is known as what? Pith. Now when we talk about the pericycle, what is pericycle? Layer of cells encircling the vascular tissue in stems and roots to provide support. So when xylem and phloem is present, above the phloem some parenchymatous cells are present or sclerenchymatous. So they are known as what? Pericycle, just above the phloem and below the endodermis. We will discuss this during the discussion of figure also, so it will be clear to you. Now when we talk about the vascular cambium, as we have studied here in the meristematic tissues, then meristematic tissues are of three types: apical, lateral and intercalary. So lateral meristematic tissues are also known as vascular cambium. So vascular means what? Xylem and phloem. So in between xylem and phloem some tissues are present, lateral meristematic tissues, which are known as vascular cambium, present in between xylem and phloem. Now the next one is what? Secondary growth. As we have discussed earlier also, that the growth in length is known as what? Primary growth, and growth in the girth is known as what? Secondary growth. Now secondary xylem and phloem. So when in plants the secondary growth is going to happen, new xylem and phloem tissues will be formed, and due to this secondary growth, the new xylem and phloem tissues are known as what? Secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Now the next word is what? Cork cambium. So as we have seen here, cortex means in between the epidermis and endodermis, the parenchymatous cells are present. So if the cambium means meristematic tissues, if the meristematic tissues are present in this cortex region, that is known as what? Cork, cambium, and this will develop during the secondary growth. So due to the secondary growth, the new meristematic tissues developed in the cortex region, that is known as what? Cork, cambium. Now what is cork, which is also known as the protective tissue? So if suppose this is epidermis and this is endodermis, if we are going to make, if suppose this is epidermis and this is endodermis, so in between this region, it is known as cortex. And this is what cork cambium means. In the cortex region, if it is a layer of meristematic tissues, so it will be known as what? Cork cambium. And you know, cambium is what? Meristematic tissues. It means they will divide. If division will take place, so due to this division, the cells will be formed inner side as well as outer side. In both of the side, new cells will be formed, and if the cells are formed at the outer side, due to this, the epidermis will got rupture, and these outer side of cells are known as what? Cork. This cork, which is going to form the new protective layer in the plants. Now the second one is what? Secondary cortex. Since this was the primary cortex earlier, and due to the cambium activity, inside new cells will be formed. So these new cells are known as what? Secondary cortex, because it is formed after the secondary growth. So secondary cortex. We will discuss in the figure also, and it will be clear to you, just to make you understand what do we mean by cork cambium, cork and secondary cortex. And finally a word will come that is known as what? Periderm. So since now these are the new cells in the outermost layer, so the combination of cork cambium, cork and secondary cortex, the combination of all these tissues is known as what? Periderm. So I just ask you to note down all these things so that when we are going to see the figure of secondary growth, it will be clear to you what are these structures and how they are going to arrange there and how they are going to perform the secondary growth in dicot stem. So just take a look here and make a note of it, so that when you will be observing the page number 62 in your reference book, where secondary growth is given in the form of figure, these all terms will be clear to you. So now we will see the secondary growth in the plants. So now we will see what is the arrangement of tissues in dicot stems and how the secondary growth is going to happen. So if suppose it is a dicot stem, plant stem, and if we are going to cut it horizontally, means it is known as transverse section TS. So this will look like this, means the outermost single layer in the stem body, that is known as what? This single layer red color, that is known as epidermis, means the outermost layer of the stem. And since it is the aerial part of the plant, means stem or leaf, so it will be covered by a waxy coating, this black color line, this waxy coating, that is known as what? Cuticle. And this cuticle is going to protect the loss of water in the aerial part of the plant. So this region which is present here in between the red lines, the red cells, this region is known as what? Cortex region, which is mainly made up of parenchymatous cells, as you have seen there in the permanent tissues, that parenchyma cells are what? Performing the function of storage and filling there wherever there is a space in the plant's body. So the inner layer of this cortex region is known as this red line, that is known as what? Endodermis. Now maybe few things will be clear to you whatever we have discussed there. that epidermis is the outermost layer of the plant body, whether it is stem, root or leaf, and this epidermis will be covered by a waxy coating that is known as cuticle, but this cuticle will be absent in root so that roots can absorb water from the soil. After epidermis, a layer of parenchymatous cell is known as what? Cortex, and the inner layer of cortex is known as what? Endodermis. So below the endodermis, you can see here blue line structures here. These are what? These are pericycle. Pericycle means these blue color cells which are present just above the pyramid shape structure. These are what? In shape of pyramids, like triangular shape. So these parenchymatous or mainly sclerenchymatous cells are present just above the vascular bundle, these pyramid structures. So this pyramid structure is known as what? Vascular bundle. Actually, why it is called as vascular bundle? Because you can see the inner part. This part is known as what? Xylem. And this outer part, the broader one, is known as what? Phloem. And you can see in between the xylem and phloem few blue color lines which are representing the lateral meristem, that is known as what? Vascular cambium. It is what? Vascular cambium. So now again, outermost layer epidermis, above the epidermis waxy coating of cuticle, below the epidermis parenchymatous cells, tissues which are known as cortex. The inner layer of cortex is known as what? Endodermis. Below the endodermis, just above the vascular tissues, because they are arranged in a ring-like manner, and xylem inside, phloem outside. So just above the vascular bundle, some sclerenchymatous or parenchymatous cells are present to provide them support, and such type of cells are known as what? Pericycle. So xylem is present inner side, phloem is present outer side, and in between xylem and phloem some lateral meristematic tissues are present which are known as what? Vascular cambium. Now here at the center region, this is also occupied by parenchymatous cells, which is known as, this center region is known as what? Pith. Now this was what about the dicot stem. Now then the secondary growth will occur with the help of this vascular cambium. So if suppose we have separated this vascular bundle, this is what? Primary phloem. This is primary xylem, and this is what? Vascular cambium. So you know the lateral meristem function is to divide and provide new cells. So this vascular cambium is going to provide new cells in both of the sides. Here also it will create new cells just above it. New cells will be formed, and below this cambium also some cells will be formed. So in both of the sides. So these new cells, since it is formed by the activity of cambium, so upper side is known as what? Secondary phloem, and lower side new cells are known as what? Secondary xylem. This is what? Cambium layer, which is going to provide the secondary growth. the cells will be formed in both of the sides, upper side and lower side. The upper side cells will form secondary phloem and lower side cells will form secondary xylem. It means when these new cells will be formed, the phloem, the primary phloem which was present here, now this will be what? Primary phloem, and here lower side this will be what? Primary xylem. Primary xylem. This will happen each and every year, and new cells will be formed each and every year, and the plant will grow in the girth and increasing the diameter of the plant like here. So as you can see here, the outermost layer is what? Epidermis. This is what? Epidermis. This layer is what? Endodermis. In between epidermis and endodermis, what is present here? That is what? Cortex. This whole region is what? From here to here, that is what? Cortex. Now what is happening here? In the cortex region, due to the activity of cambium, when the cells are going to increase in the girth, this cortex region, some cells will be performing like the meristematic cell, and these layer of cells, meristematic cell present in the cortex region, these are known as what? Cork cambium. Means it is the ring of cambium, it is the meristematic tissue which is present in the cortex region, and that's why this layer of meristematic tissue is known as cork cambium. So as vascular cambium was producing cells outside and inside, this cork cambium will also produce new cells in both of the sides. So this, when it will increase in the number, the cells will be formed more and more like this. New cells will be prepared, one layer, two layer and many layer, outside and inside also. So since these new cells are produced due to the activity of cork cambium, so the girth will increase and the epidermis will got rupture. Because of the increase in size, epidermis will got rupture, will got breakdown. So now the new cells which are produced just above, outside the cork cambium, means these cells which are new, these are known as what? Cork. This is what? Cork cambium. And these new cells which are produced inside the cork cambium, these cells, it is known as what? Secondary cortex. So the combination of these three, cork, cork cambium and secondary cortex, is now termed as what? Periderm. And as you can see, now when the epidermis will got rupture, this cork will be present at the outermost layer, and these will be of dead cells which are going to perform the function of protection. So that was all from the secondary growth of the plant. I hope this will be beneficial for you, but still if you face any difficulty or any doubt, you can ask your query in the comment section. And this was all end up here before the periodic test, because as I told you, very soon you are going to face your periodic test. So we have finished in the second chapter portion of this chapter that belongs to the plant tissues, and now one portion is left, that is what? Animal tissues, which we will continue after the periodic test. So from the next video we will start the revision of the first chapter, which is going to come in your first periodic test, which will happen very soon. And maybe very soon we are going to meet in the live class with the Zoom or Google Meet app. So till then we are going to meet there, and we are going to meet in the new video. Take care of yourself, be safe, and keep studying, and you can ask your queries or doubt in the comment section. So take care.